The light from creation still lingered over the land, yet something stirred quietly in the dark. The earth remained flawless, untouched. Man walked beside the Almighty, but a single whisper, a single decision, changed everything forever. When man fell, the whole world fell too. Celestial beings broke their promises, giants crushed mankind, evil spread like wildfire, and the ground groaned under the burden of wrongdoing. Then God spoke, and when his voice is heard, all creation trembles. This is the account of a time before the great flood, when nearly all was wiped away. At first, the earth was filled with wonder beyond imagination. Pain, violence, and death were unknown in that fresh creation. Majestic peaks touched the sky. The oceans swirled with the breeze, and the heavens seemed alive with song. Creatures lived in peace, and the wind in the garden carried the breath of forever. God strolled beside man. It was the beginning of all things. Adam looked up in awe at the golden light filtering through Eden's trees. Eve's heart was full as she watched the animals surround her without fear. "All of this was entrusted to us," she whispered, eyes glistening. Adam responded quietly, "We weren't just made, we were cherished." But then a strange sound rustled through the leaves, a voice full of uncertainty. The serpent, gleaming and graceful, introduced the first idea of turning away. Then came the moment of choice, and that choice led to their fall. Eden, once their dwelling, became only a fading memory. With heavy hearts, Adam and Eve stepped out of the garden, burdened with shame and sorrow. A burning blade stood at the gate, dividing heaven from earth. And when Eve delivered her first son, Cain, her eyes welled with tears and her body with pain. It was the birth of mankind and of suffering. Cain grew into a man who kept to himself, proud and withdrawn. His brother Abel was gentle and loyal. "I will bring my best lamb to the Lord," Abel declared. Cain answered coldly, "The fruits I grow are just as worthy." But when God welcomed Abel's gift and rejected Cain's, envy took root, and the field became the place of death. The earth echoed with the cry of the innocent, and God turned his gaze away for a time. Cain, now marked and wandering, walked away from his mother's weeping and his father's silence. Still, life carried on. Seth was born, beginning a family line that looked toward the Creator once more. People lived long lives. Birth and death came and went, like the tide in a sea of ages. Knowledge was expanding, shelters were being built, animals were tamed, metal was shaped by fire. Music echoed from the first flutes and harps. Civilization began to grow rapidly. Lush valleys became places to live. Tribes turned into settlements. People named the winds, carved figures, and raised altars. But only a few still called on the Lord. Among them stood a man named Lamech, a descendant of Cain, known for his harsh words and fierce temper. "I took a man's life because he struck me. If Cain deserves sevenfold vengeance, then I deserve 77 times more," he declared. It was an age of bold beginnings, but also swelling arrogance. Jabal became the ancestor of nomads who herded livestock. Jubal, skilled in song, crafted bone flutes and harps with string made from plum fibers. Tubal-Cain, the metal worker, molded blades and weapons from new minerals. Art and battle rose side by side. Beauty and ruin moved hand in hand. Towns expanded. Rulers turned into monarchs. Crude stone structures rose in valleys. Daily life revolved around feasts, offerings, and worship. Yet high above, God watched the widening gap between him and mankind. Trust was replaced with ambition. The longing for God was pushed aside by pride. Still, not all was lost. In the time of Enosh, people began to reach out to God once again. There remained a spark of hope. Even as evil spread, Some still clung to faith, like glowing coals in deep night. But creation already felt the burden of human rebellion. The trees no longer shone as bright, the sky dimmed, animals grew more cautious, and the land stirred uneasily. Then came the rumors. Old stories spoke of heavenly beings visiting the world, the Watchers. Their presence stirred awe and unease. People saw them as divine, women admired them, and many called them heroes. Their coming changed everything. They descended from above, though their names were not known. Their gaze turned to the world below. These Watchers, angels sent to oversee mankind, went beyond their mission. The daughters of humans are so beautiful. They whispered to one another, surrounded by a glow that now burned with longing. On the peaks of Mount Hermon, they reached an agreement. 200 of them vowed they would not return until they had taken mortal wives. And so they came down. People welcomed them as divine beings. Their garments glowed with brilliance. Their voices rolled like soft thunder. Their gaze reached into the heart. Women were drawn to them. Men were filled with dread. The children born from these unions were far from normal. They grew tall, powerful, and filled with pride. They were known as the Nephilim, giants, warriors of fame, the earliest rulers. Cities erected monuments in their honor. Their names were spoken with a mix of awe and terror. Yet something felt off. They didn't age like mortals. Their hunger had no limits. At first, they devoured crops, then livestock. When supplies ran out, they turned to devour mankind. The fertile lands turned into zones of bondage. The Nephilim demanded sacrifices in blood. The Watchers, now fallen, passed on forbidden knowledge, sorcery, star readings, enchantments, altered genetics, hallucinogens, and weapons. Darkness crept across the heavens. Azazel, one of their chiefs, showed humans how to craft weapons, blades, shields, and armor. He taught women the use of cosmetics, charms of seduction, and how to summon natural forces. Knowledge became power, and power led to dominance. Battle became a sacred act. Desire was turned into worship. Blood covered the stones like flowing wine. Amid this decaying world, a strange new species came to be. Hybrids, twisted forms, creatures mixed with men, serpents with wings, beings whose eyes burned like fire and whose skin was hard as metal, women whose voices could shatter reason. Creation was breaking apart. The heavens looked on without a word. But not everyone stayed silent. One man still walked in step with God. His name was Enoch. A descendant of Seth, he refused to accept the world's corruption. His vision pierced the unseen. His sleep brought revelations. In one dream, he saw God's throne and heard a voice say, "Speak of the judgment that will come." Enoch stood among the crowds and declared, "The Most High sees all. Nothing escapes his eye. The Watchers will answer for what they've done. The giants will fall. A flood will sweep over the earth like nothing before." But they laughed, dismissed his warnings, and tried to silence his voice. Enoch, however, remained bold. He carved every word onto stones and scrolls made of skin. His writings described gateways, cosmic realms, heavenly armies, and the day when final judgment would arrive. Then one day, Enoch vanished. He was no longer seen among people. It was said that God took him away for himself. With Enoch gone, the world grew even darker. The Watchers, unchecked, carried on with their deeds. Forests began to die. The earth shook beneath the weight. The stars dimmed in the sky. Nature cried out from the pain of corruption. Its plea reached heaven, and the Almighty called his holy messengers. This must end now. The Watchers will be bound, their offspring destroyed. The world will be cleansed. The archangel Uriel was sent to Enoch, now in the realm above, to record the sentence of the fallen. Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel prepared to bring judgment, but evil still spread across the earth. Humans began building towers to pierce the sky. Mothers gave their children to the Nephilim in dark rituals. The blood of the innocent stained the soil and cried out. While the Watchers taught how to control nature, the planet was consumed by spells, cruelty, and shadow. The nights were filled with eerie noises. In the breeze, one could hear cries. Cracks split open the ground. The sky was ablaze. Lightning flashed with no sound. It was as if creation itself felt it. Something was coming, something dreadful. A sentence long ago foretold. Yet even in the ruin, one family line endured. Seth's descendants, though worn and few, kept the truth of the Creator alive. They prayed, remembered, and taught their children that all was not lost. Among them lived a calm, honest man. While the world chased wickedness and chaos, he wandered beneath trees and listened to the voice of the wind. His name was Noah. Noah tilled the soil with rough hands and a peaceful spirit. Others mocked him, calling him old-fashioned and naive. But Noah carried a truth not taught by men. He listened for God's voice. As I walked the fields, I felt the Almighty pass like a soft wind in the trees. His sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, learned to respect the Lord, even in an age of deep corruption. One night, the sky split apart. The darkness glowed in colors never before seen by human eyes. A powerful presence enveloped Noah, and a voice like distant thunder spoke deep within him. "The time of all life has reached its limit. The earth is soaked in violence. Build yourself a vessel from cypress wood." Noah dropped to the ground, shaking. "Lord, how can this be?" And the voice replied, "I will show you every detail. With you, I will make a new promise." At dawn, Noah gathered his family and spoke with conviction. "God has spoken to me. Water will bring the judgment. We must begin building the ark." The children stayed quiet at first. Then Shem stepped forward and said, "If it comes from the Lord, we will follow." So the work began. Trees were felled. The echo of chopping rang through dry valleys that had never seen rain. In nearby towns, people mocked. "There goes the madman. Who builds a boat in the middle of dry land?" Noah kept silent. He wiped the sweat from his brow as he fit timber together. Faith gave him strength. Meanwhile, the Nephilim ruled their cities with cruelty. People were forced to fight for amusement. Children were sacrificed in dark rites. The so-called gods, twisted beyond recognition, lived in temples built by the enslaved. The light that once illuminated creation was now replaced by deep shadows. But in the heavens, the angels stirred. Michael was ordered to strike the Nephilim. With burning force, he descended like a storm of flame, leading armies bearing weapons of light. Sky and soil shook. The giants were slain in great clashes. Their cries echoed through the valleys. The land cracked open to consume their remains. The Watchers were shackled and thrown into the depths, where unending darkness awaited them. Still, Noah continued. The ark rose like a massive structure in the open plain. 3 levels, countless rooms, a shelter for all living things. God led the animals in pairs, drawn by unseen guidance. Lions calmly walked beside sheep. Eagles touched down next to gentle doves. The unbelievable unfolded before human eyes. But even then, people refused to believe. The parties went on. The orgies grew wilder. God's name became something people joked about. Noah kept building and warning, "Turn back now, there's still time." But his words were met only with more laughter. Women danced around the flames. Men sang praises to the Nephilim, even as the skies showed signs of disaster. Strange events began to unfold. The moon turned the color of blood. Wild animals escaped the woods. Winds came from opposite directions. A gentle rain began to fall. Even deserts felt droplets. The earth trembled beneath their feet. Still, people refused to change. Then came the seventh day. The ark was complete. God spoke once more. "You and your family enter the ark. I have seen your righteousness among this people." Without a word, Noah gathered his household. One by one they stepped into the great wooden vessel. At the door, Noah looked back one last time. A voice cried from afar, "Coward, come enjoy life with us." Noah answered only with a sorrowful glance. Then something strange occurred, something beyond explanation. The door shut on its own. A deep vibration rolled through the valley. The birds stopped singing. A lone bird glided across the sky without a sound. Thunder echoed, yet no rain had started. Inside, Noah waited in silence. The wood groaned gently. Outside, a strange stillness took hold. Laughter still echoed, but now with uncertainty. "Where is this flood he promised?" they whispered, but the sky no longer looked peaceful. Then the first raindrops came, slow, heavy, and few. One landed on the dry earth like a message, then another, and more. People stood in silence. Children hurried to hide. Adults looked upward, concerned. The wind grew wilder. The clouds spiraled into massive shapes, like eyes watching from above. Then, suddenly, it was as if the heavens had torn apart. Torrents of water crashed down. This was no gentle shower. It was a furious downpour, like a living force. Lightning split the sky in flashes like spears. The ground quaked. From beneath the ground, violent springs of water exploded, tearing open deep cracks in the earth. It felt as if the very fabric of creation was unraveling. Inside the ark, Noah prayed in silence. The wooden walls shook but stayed strong. The animals grew restless, their cries echoing through the vessel. Drops turned into torrents. Shallow pools turned to flowing streams. The roads vanished. Homes crumbled. Entire cities were swallowed whole. While outside chaos erupted, Noah remained in prayer. Fear now replaced mockery. Those who once laughed now pounded on the ark in terror. "Noah, let us in, please!" they cried, striking the heavy timbers. But the door had been shut by God's own hand. No person could open it. "We believe now. Forgive us." But it was too late. The waters rose without mercy. Ancient trees snapped like twigs. Monuments built for the Nephilim toppled like toys. Even mountains began to vanish beneath the flood's crushing weight. Human screams mixed with the thunder of waves and the fury of judgment. The giants, once worshipped as deities, tried to fight back. They struck at the waters with massive fists, but it was useless. One shouted in rage, "We cannot die!" only to be consumed by the sea, his voice forever silenced. The Watchers' altars were ripped from the soil, idols shattered, symbols vanished. All their forbidden wisdom, desires, and dark rituals disappeared beneath the flood. The earth was being cleansed with fury and sorrow. God's justice, ignored for generations, now came like a crashing storm. Inside the ark, Noah embraced his wife. Ham gripped Japheth's shoulder tightly. Shem stared upward and whispered, "Father, God kept his promise." Noah answered, voice heavy, "Yes, but my heart mourns for them." Outside, the noise of devastation was overwhelming. For 40 days and nights, the rain did not stop. Every sunrise, the waters climbed higher. Every night, darkness deepened. Thunder echoed like mighty beasts from the heavens. Lightning tore across the sky like weapons in battle. The earth, once full of life, now cried in sorrow. There were no cities left, no more singing or celebration. The Watchers were now chained in the depths of shadow. The Nephilim lay buried beneath the chaos. Mankind had been reduced to one single family, protected only by wood, trust, and a glimmer of hope. The waters reached above even the tallest peaks. Ararat, Sinai, every mountain disappeared beneath the waves, and the world grew still. No more cries, no more battles, only the whisper of wind, the rhythm of rain, and the ark drifting alone in endless water. Inside, days merged into nights. Animal sounds echoed in the wooden halls, but among the humans, silence spoke louder. Time felt frozen. "Do you think anyone else survived?" Ham asked quietly. Noah answered, "No one." A tear slid down her cheek. On the surface of the flood, broken trees floated, along with clothes and shattered pieces of homes. It was a graveyard of the former world. What once ruled the earth now lay in pieces. Eagles no longer soared. Wild beasts had vanished. Human pride was gone. Yet God remembered his word. Above the storm, light still shone. The angels watched the ark with deep respect. Inside, it was more than life. It was the beginning of something new. The waters began to calm. The roaring storm softened into a whisper. Thunder faded. Clouds slowly lifted, and far away sunlight pierced through the fog. It was the first light they had seen in many days. Though still submerged, the earth remained. The ark drifted slowly, a witness between two ages. The former world had passed away in judgment. Now, something new was rising from the waters, but they had to wait. The sun, pale and hesitant, returned to a quiet world where Noah's ark floated above the deep. Wrapped in silence and sea spray, Noah held on to his trust as weeks turned to months. But when the skies cleared and the rain stopped, a fresh wind swept through the ark. Noah released a raven. Then he sent out a dove. It returned with an olive leaf, a sign of peace. With a heart full of awe, Noah gave thanks to God. The waters continued to sink, the mountains reappeared, and the ark drifted once more. Finally, the ark settled on Mount Ararat. And then the Lord spoke, "Leave the ark and bring life again." The door opened wide, and light poured inside like a gentle blessing. Animals stepped out, free once more. Noah placed his foot on solid ground and, without speaking, built an altar for the God who brings both judgment and renewal. The scent of his offering rose to the skies, and God was moved. "Never again will I wipe out all living things," he declared. "As long as the earth stands, planting and harvest will not cease." As a sign of this vow, a rainbow stretched across the heavens. Japheth looked up and asked, "Is this a promise?" "Yes," Noah answered, "between heaven and earth." Though scarred, the world began to bloom. Sprouts pushed through the damp soil, birds sang again, rivers flowed in new directions. Life was returning. Noah's sons took up work, while their wives gathered herbs and roots. Cold nights were now filled with stories and with hope. Noah understood that darkness still lingered in the human heart, but he believed God's mercy was even greater. The old world, ruined by giants and fallen beings, was gone beneath the waves. A new creation was unfolding, and with it, a lasting truth. The earth may be washed clean, but the heart still longs for transformation.